Here's Shed. Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it. Jamal Shed plays the hero again.
Back to pass. Donovan Smith. Smith steps up in the pocket, unloads it, throws it all the way downfield into the end zone. Tipped, and it is caught. Caught by the Cougars. Caught for a touchdown. Unbelievable. Caught by Stephon Johnson.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Holm Podcast, coming to you live for the last time in the month of May with, I would say, our best men's basketball newsy stuff to talk about here, which is very exciting. We've got two sports that were participating in their postseason in the last week or two that we're going to talk about as well. Even at the tail end of the Cougar sports season, there's still always something to talk about in the world of Houston Cougars. We're here to talk about, Bobby, as I said at the very beginning of this, late May, hot temps. I'm going to put my stake in the ground for something sports related, but not U of H related here. The Memorial Day weekend is an underrated sports weekend for me. Like that general period, you got. I mean, I'm biased to tennis. You got the French Open starting, but like more fitting to what we cover here, our purview, the NCAA baseball selection show Memorial Day, the closing days of the NCAA, baseball conference postseason. Like you get upsets at conference tournaments, that kind of stuff. It's been a while, but there used to be at one point where U of H teams would be doing stuff in their conference tournaments this time of year. You got softball postseason as well. There's sometimes compelling sports there. Pretty, low key good sports long weekend of the year, I would say, Bobby. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I think it's a really good one. Very underrated.
NBA playoffs. I can't play NBA playoffs.
And a game that's going on in about 5 minutes. Hockey playoffs as well. Hockey playoffs, yeah. I would say it's a very underrated. I don't know if it's one of the best weekends, but it's very underrated. I think I can see an argument for, this doesn't get the love that it should, because even if you're not into stock car race or racing at all, you got the triple crown. You got the Triple Crown on Sunday. Monaco, it's just beautiful. Granted, I and longtime listener friend Bill had a discussion about how we make Monaco better. I watched the tail end of the Coca-Cola 600 while I also had NBA playoffs on Sunday. So it's a really good weekend. I think there are weekends in April that are a lot better. I think April's the best sports month on the calendar, and I don't think it's close, really, to be honest with you. I think April is the best, but I think late May it is a good weekend. Memorial Day weekend is usually a good weekend for some good sports action.
Yeah, I realized it when I immediately forgot three headlining things, like the motor racing, if you're into that sort of thing, NBA and NHL playoffs, I feel like for me, Memorial Day is about when the MLB season starts becoming real for me. Like, I know opening day is cool, but I'm sorry, any April baseball result is kind of just it's April baseball, man. I need there to be 40 games that have happened in the season for me to really start having getting big takeaways. Yeah, getting a feel for a season when it's
I agree. Yeah, it's really tough. Especially when you see talking heads and people talking about this team's on a 5-game losing streak, and you're like, yeah, it's still
5 games out of 162.
Yeah, it's it happens. If the first month of the MLB season was important at all, I think our teams would have a lot more championships than they actually do have.
Sure enough. But agree. I would agree with your general thesis. It is not one of the very best, but it is an underrated one. It's a good one. It's one that I enjoyed certainly here in the past several days. What we would enjoy also, if you, the person listening to this, if you don't do so already, please consider supporting our show by going to patreon.com/shpodcast. We have dropped 2 very recent episodes over there, our part 1 and 2 of the Coug Vibe Check, where we look at every single intercollegiate sport over those 2 episodes that the University of Houston fields, talk about the vibes around the program, how we're feeling, early thoughts about the next season, but it's not a season preview, not that formality. We kind of take the temperature of all the sports teams that compete for the University of Houston. We put little tastes of those episodes at the end of the previous 2 episodes here in the regular feed. If any of that sounds good to you, if the idea of supporting the work that Bobby and I do here on a weekly basis sounds good to you, please go to patreon.com patreon.com/SH podcast. Please also support our friends at the 1012 Network, and you can support them, you can support us, and you can support a fantastic apparel company, our friends at Charlie Hustle, charliehustle.com on the World Wide Web. Use our promo code TEN12 Network, that promo code spelled out 1012 Network. You're going to save 50% on your Charlie Hustle order. Bobby can confirm and keep me honest as the one other person watching this video stream of this audio podcast. I am wearing the Charlie Hustle shirt that has the old Sailor Cougar in the outline of the state of Texas, and it says "Eat 'em up, Cougs." Fantastic design, comfortable tee that is very much part of my regular rotation. Full selection of great designs, t-shirts, crew necks, quarter zips, all that good stuff. If it's a wearable, Charlie Hustle probably has it, and with some great vintage Cougar design. So you want to support us that way, please go to charliehustle.com and use that promo code TEN12 Network. That's all the housekeeping. We couldn't really start tonight's show anywhere else but leading with those two huge pieces of Cougar men's basketball news I mentioned at the top, news that became official in the week since we last got together and recorded a podcast. I think we could lead nowhere else than the news that we learned this morning that Cougar point guard Milos Uzan, who last month officially entered the NBA draft process with the option of staying in the draft or returning to U of H at a later time, would in fact be returning to the Cougars for the 2025-26 season. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn in saying that between the two of us, I think we both believed there was a good possibility Uzan could return. But also, I don't think either of us was close to 100% that we would see Uzan play ever again for this team. So, Bobby, today can't really be anything but great news, can it?
No, I think it's fantastic news. I mean, it's you bring back one of the leaders of a team that went to the NCAA National Championship game last year. Now, in that process, you lose Pop Isaacs, which we will definitely talk about here in a second. And how do you feel about that trade? We can definitely talk about that as we go along. I think it got a little bit scarier than I probably expected it to. I think you and I on this podcast said this is a smart process by Milos. Go figure out what you need to work on and come back. But then there were a couple of interviews and a couple of things kind of coming out that people were like, hey, he might be leaning towards the NBA, and if he can get guaranteed money, he's going to lean towards the NBA. And I'm not just talking about the one that I know you think I'm talking about. There were other reports.
Make a face. Sorry.
There were other reports that just kind of came out that Milos was pretty excited about how he was performing. I mean, in that one that we're talking about, I believe Chancellor Johnson, is that who did that?
I wasn't gonna go after Chancellor by name.
No, I'm not going after him.
He's a good dude. He's done good stuff covering the Cougs in his capacity as a TV journalist.
I'm in no way going after Chancellor here. I thought he reported what Milos said.
It was after a workout with the Warriors.
Yeah, after the workout with the Warriors, he quoted Milos saying, "I would say that's what kind of kept me towards the NBA is just how I'm doing in these workouts." That sounds like a guy who might go. And you hear that and you go, hey, wait a minute. Yes, it was right after his NBA workout. But I think Milos surprised Milos in how well he was doing at some of these workouts. And so I think it got dicier than you and I probably both expected. I can't say I was overly surprised by this result. But it definitely was one of those things where you're looking at it going, I mean, maybe he could. I don't think he should. But if somebody, all it takes is one, right? That's the classic adage in the NFL draft is all it takes is one team to go, you're kind of our guy. And that's all it had to take here too. Unfortunately for Milos, it didn't happen, but fortunately for Houston Cougar fans, it didn't happen as well. So, but overall, super excited about getting Milos back. And, I when we talk about Pop Isaacs, I wanna talk to you just kind of about the NIL deal that I would assume Milos got here and what that all kind of looked like and that kind of stuff. But you gotta kind of talk about Pop Isaacs in the same sense. But overall, I think high level, it's tough to find production like you got from Milos Uzan. The fact that Milos Uzan came in here as, I don't want to say he was unheralded, right? He was a very good player at Oklahoma.
I mean, go look at last year's transfer. I'm saying this to agree with you. Go look at last year's transfer ratings. You have to go a long time down the ratings or the ranking of guys in the 2024 summer until you got to Milos Uzan.
Yeah, and when he came in, I think all of us were like, I guess if Sampson If Sampson trusts him, we kind of trust him. He didn't show a ton at Oklahoma. He didn't look bad. There's some potential there. And now we're a year later going, holy moly, please come back. And now that's just another feather in the cap for Kelvin Sampson. The fact that he brought in a guy, to your point, who was low on the transfer recruiting rankings. I mean, as low as a team that was going to be ranked number 5 preseason or whatever we were heading into the season's going to get. It's not like we grabbed a guy from some lower level conference. We did grab a guy from our conference, right? So it's not like we dipped too low, but to bring a guy in who wasn't the most heralded transfer recruit and make him a guy who looked like he was probably going to go top 45 in the NBA draft and had a chance at getting some guaranteed money, that's great for recruiting, especially for Kelvin Sampson going forward.
To what you were talking about a bit ago about the comments he made after workouts, and you kind of said it, like if you're going through that workout process and you didn't absolutely bomb it, like, of course you could be thinking about being a pro basketball player, because not that Milos Uzan hasn't played high level basketball to this point, but this is the closest he's come to playing pro basketball. Like you're working out for professional teams. You have professional teams telling you, hey, like this is what you need to work on in your game. This is where we think we would take you, or hey, like this is what you would need to work on in your game for us to consider drafting you where we have picks here, like however specific they get in there. I just think anytime you get a guy in a situation right after a workout, right after the guy has been as close as he's ever been to being an NBA player, something I assume Milos Uzan has been dreaming about being since he was old enough to like formulate the, hey, I want to be X when I grow up. Like you're gonna get that guy really thinking about that. I think it speaks to probably the feedback that he got, that, hey, I think he was a draftable player. Like there's nothing you could say to me that would make me believe Milos Uzan wouldn't get taken in 60 NBA draft picks. But I think he believes he's a first round pick kind of guy. And he has seen guys in this program like Marcus Sasser came back and was a first round draft pick. Like guys have improved their stock by coming back here. And he, I think, as we're going to get to here in a second, at least briefly, has a pretty good team coming back around him. One capable of allowing him to build on a really impressive 2024-25 season. Something you pointed out last month when we talked about Uzan's decision to enter the NBA draft process, and it was pretty important at the time, that he made sure to clarify at the time of the original announcement that, because I think it was right around the entrance deadline for the transfer portal, that he made it clear that the choices were only staying in the NBA draft or coming back to U of H. That's important because even in this league with other resource-rich Big 12 programs, there are teams right now who have lost key projected returning players. Darian Williams left Texas Tech, a program that themselves have not been shy about basketball spending. Williams is at NC State now. From Arizona, KJ Lewis and Henri Vesar, who both play a ton of minutes for a Sweet 16 team, are off at different programs. Baylor lost their top returning guy, Pop Wright, to fellow Big 12 program BYU. And I know we're not the only ones who beat this drum on the U of H beat. I would say our friend Parker at Locked On Cougs is big about this as well. But U of H fans absolutely should not overlook how insanely good Kelvin Sampson and his staff have been at player retention. There was a time in college sports when you could generally look at a team and assume that most of the roster of guys who weren't graduating seniors would be back for the following season. That era no longer exists across most sports, really. Not that guys don't come back, but roster movement is a whole lot more common nowadays. As Cougar men's basketball fans, we still get to exist, Bobby, in the world where, once the wounds kind of healed a bit last month from the title game loss, you could reasonably look at the guys projected to come back and say, yeah, I think most of these guys will be back with the U of H program next season. I mean, fast forward a month and some change now in the future, we're here. Nearly all of the projected returning players are back. And what excites me the most about Uzan coming back is the improvement we see guys show coming off their first year in this program under Sampson, especially the point guard position. Because even though Sampson's been here for over 10 years, there have only been 4 long-term point guards in this program's history. Galen Robinson Jr., Dejan Giroux, Jamal Shed, and now Milos Uzan. And all 4 of those guys hit the ground running when they won the job, kind of the nature of what I think Sampson demands from the position, but all of them were much better after their first season. In Robinson and Shed's cases, obviously the timetables are a bit different because they came in as high school recruits, but I think the point still stands. Every one of those guys prior to Milos Uzan improved a bunch after their first season in the program. And that's really exciting because year one, Milos Uzan was quite good. Was the best player on the court for some of your biggest wins this season, man. The way his floater was dropping in that big road win in Arizona when a lot of his teammates were struggling to make shots, helped you get a big road win there. Torched Arizona again for 25 in the Big 12 tournament championship game. Had that dagger 3 in the revenge game win at Texas Tech. I would say no performance bigger this season than the Sweet 16 game against Purdue. Had the game high in points. Hit the game-winning layup as well in what was essentially a road game. There are things Milos Uzan can improve upon, and I think how much he improves in those areas is going to have an outsized impact on the Cougs ceiling the coming season, but I think he can get there. Bobby, this might sound more hot takey than the tone I usually have here, but I don't think this is a controversial opinion. I don't think this is something you're going to disagree with me here on. Milos Uzan coming back puts U of H in that early conversation of teams that can win a natty in 2026. Doesn't mean U of H is going to be the favorite above all else. There will be other teams in that group, and it's certainly not going to be an easy task if U of H can get back around where they were this past March and April. But Uzan not coming back, I think, doesn't mean U of H wouldn't have been a very good team that wouldn't have competed for the Big 12 title and had a small number next to their name come mid-March. But I don't think I'm being too harsh in saying that Milos Uzan coming back or not coming back was the difference maker in this team. Yeah, I think competing for national title. And if that doesn't get your blood pumping a little bit as a Cougar fan, I guess see a cardiologist or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that's a pretty level-headed take. I think Milos Uzan coming back, I think puts you in the discussion for preseason number 1, not just a national title contender. I think it puts you in line to be preseason number 1, at worst you're 2 or 3 maybe. But I think you stay. Yeah, I think you're preseason number 1. You played in the national championship game. You bring back 3 of your 5 starters. You bring in the number 1 recruiting class. I don't know how you wouldn't be number 1. I mean, maybe St. John's. I was listening to the Eye on College Basketball. I haven't done a ton of research on next year's college basketball. I'm kind of focused getting ready for football season. But, you know, I think for me, when I think about being preseason number 1, I don't ever want to take this feeling for granted. I don't ever want to get sick of this or expect this. I don't want to ever be somebody who's disappointed if we're preseason number 10, right? Like, I want to appreciate what we're seeing here, and I want to understand how hard it is to do what the Cougars are doing right now. This is special, man. That's all you can say is going into a season and possibly being preseason number 1, having an argument to a pretty solid argument. I think even this past year, you had an argument to be number 1, but you saw what Duke was bringing and what Kansas was returning. Kansas was returning one of the best players in college basketball in Hunter Dickinson. And then you saw Cooper Flagg was going to Duke, and he was one of these recruits that everyone said was generational, and he proved to be generational. Kind of funny that the Cougs beat both those guys this year. Just a side note there.
I honestly didn't even think about that, but that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. When you think about it, the 2 guys who everyone was probably considering the 2 best players in college basketball took L's. They were 0-3 against U of H this year. Sorry, I'm just gonna.
You love to see it. Honestly, you love to see it.
Like it, it's special. It's special to go into a season going, there's a good chance that we're preseason number 1, and if we're not, there's a little bit of reason to go, that's a little disrespectful, isn't it? It's crazy, man. It's a special feeling that I think U of H fans really need to sit back and make sure that we don't get accustomed to this, that we're constantly striving to go for this.
And we had a related roster move you've already mentioned a couple times, almost simultaneous to
I think it was before.
Was it?
Because I
found this out at 5:58 a.m. my time from a text message. I was literally like 5 minutes before I woke up. Co-host Emeritus Dustin texted our past and present co-host group chat and said Uzan's coming back, and I literally woke up like 5 minutes later, not because of it, just because I'm an old man that wakes up at 6 a.m. now And it was just like, oh man, that's a cool way to wake up.
Well, remember, I'm off today because I just worked all weekend. And so I was sleeping in. I didn't wake up till 9 o'clock today. And that was the first text I saw too. And I was like,
so we both got it broken to us by Dustin.
Yeah. And so then I like got up, got ready for the day. And then I was like, let's scroll Twitter a little bit. And it looked like everything I saw that, because there was a brief moment where some U of H accounts were kind of freaking out when Pop Isaacs wasn't coming. They were like, I mean, our friend Bill texted us and he was like, screw A&M. And then like 3 hours later, he was like, oh, wait a minute.
So yeah, that's what you shouldn't take any news you get before 8 a.m. is serious. Wait until that, until it gets later in the day. Actually, like it's being slow to react to stuff once again has clearly paid dividends to the two of us. I mean, we'll say roughly simultaneous though, in terms to the two of each other. Found out Pop Isaacs would actually be going to A&M. I think these two moves are very, very related. Even if you're somebody who's an especially strong believer in coincidences, Kelvin Sampson confirmed that these are related events. I'm quoting from him directly via our friend Ryan at GoCougs.com. Quote, I was looking forward to working with Pop. Both Milos coming back, it changed some things. It worked out for everybody. Won't surprise you. I think I might have sent this to you. I saw an Aggie outlet refer to them as flipping Isaacs from A&M to U of H, and it's like, no, buddy, he's surplus to requirements here. He can go help you guys finish 13th in the SEC or whatever. Not that this is, and that's more of an A&M specific insult than a Pop Isaacs one. I think Pop Isaacs is a good player. I think A&M should actually feel very fortunate they're getting our sloppy seconds.
Well,
frankly,
to be fair, Pop Isaacs was on like his 5th school, so we were getting somebody sloppy second.
Yeah, we know. I mean, we would have been number 3 in 4 seasons, so I guess, yeah. So I
mean, we can look down upon our pedestal, but I mean, no. In all seriousness, yeah, they're definitely related. Like, there's no doubt that if Milos Uzan is coming back, there's no real need for Pop Isaacs. Look, I'm not saying if Pop Isaacs decided to stay that I wouldn't be ecstatic that Pop Isaacs was trying to stay, but I think, honestly, and this is just, hear me out here, why I said I wanted to come back to this, is I really think that the NIL dollars weren't there anymore. I think the deal Pop got from U of H was contingent on Milos not coming back, because then he could take Milos's NIL dollars. Or the money you were going to spend on Milos, you can only get to Milos's money with Pop's money. So I think that, to me, that feels why this deal, why Pop never played for U of H. I think there was something to be said about the deal that he was under for his NIL.
Yeah, I can't imagine a scenario where that isn't the case. Like, without knowing everything for sure, like this is some speculation on both of our parts.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, like that doesn't take much. That doesn't take me having to suspend much disbelief. Like, yeah, that seems to work out logically. That makes sense. I would say there's probably at least some amount of that also was the role he was going to play with Uzan here versus Uzan not here. Like that it's not just purely NIL. There's also like Pop Isaacs can go places and play a more primary role than he probably would have been allowed to play with Milos Uzan before. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's some combination of NIL and role he would have been fitting on this team. Sampson said something also, I don't think it was an exact quote, but referred to Isaac seeing how many heads were here, kind of referring to hey, like this is telling us without telling us in so many terms that him coming here was a contingency if the very high likelihood that Milos Uzan, not Jamal Shed, Milos Uzan, got my Cougar point guards of the last 3-ish years flipped there, was very much a Milos Uzan's not coming back contingency. And in a scenario where Uzan's no longer on this roster for the coming season, I think Isaacs does a good job of giving you a veteran presence at the position as you kind of figure out how much of your point guard of the future Kingston Flemings is ready for, how much Kingston Flemings could take on as a freshman playing for Kelvin Sampson. Now you can have Kingston Flemings learn from Uzan and have even less pressure on him to take the reins at point guard. Let him be kind of an understudy this year. Let him get his feet wet. And then for 26-27, Kingston Flemings is running the show here for University of Houston men's basketball. Bobby, if you'll allow me, as I try to deal with the over 5 months we have left between us recording tonight and the actual start of the Cougar season, let me talk a little lineups now that we know.
Well, hold on, I had one more Pop Isaacs thought.
Hit me.
And it's not really a Pop Isaacs thought. It's more, you gotta love to see the staff being as proactive as they were in the transfer portal and not relying on the fact that they thought Milos was going to come back. Instead going, we need a guy who's going to fill in for him. Here's a guy that we think is going to fit. And if the other guy comes back, then so be it. That's awesome. We're going to make this contingent. But not that I ever doubted Sampson was going to be proactive in how he handled this situation, but the fact that he was, and you got to see that he was still able to recruit somebody want a high level transfer, wanted to come play at U of H, still shows something. And I think there's a lot to be said about the staff and the way they built this roster, knowing that they were going to be able to have a contingency plan, and also that they allowed Pop Isaacs to have a contingency plan as well. There's no way that something like this doesn't happen, right? Where it goes bang, bang in terms of the transfers without Pop Isaacs having been in contact with somebody, right? So Sampson, I think, played this in a perfect way of building his roster and making sure that somebody was always going to fill that point guard spot, but also in future recruiting. Like, look, I don't want to talk NIL, he has said he doesn't talk NIL, but to be like, look, there's a lot of moving parts with this. We're going to allow you to handle it how you need to handle it. I think does a lot for recruiting in the future for Kelvin Sampson as well.
Yeah, he certainly didn't leave Isaacs high and dry. Like the fact that the timing of this tells me that Sampson and the staff were pretty upfront with Isaacs' camp about like, hey, where is this going with Uzan, what the roster's going to look like the coming season, and what Isaacs wanted from his next destination, which I think is good. It speaks to why the staff is so good at acquiring talent that fits what they want to do.
Exactly.
So looking at that lineup with Milos Uzan now, I think being the last uncertainty of what the coming season's roster is going to look like, I think you preface any of this talk by acknowledging that the 4 graduating seniors, Lonnie Roberts, LJ Cryer, Javier Francis, and Malik Wilson, and your one transfer out, Terrence Arsenault, are all going to be missed. But man, the return of Uzan really gives you some tantalizing lineups. If I had to guess, obviously Uzan starts at the point, Emmanuel Sharp and Isaiah Harwell, one of your star freshmen, or you'd be your shooting guards. Then you have Jojo Tugler and Chris Sinek Jr., one of your other star freshmen, in the front court. But you could easily talk me into Mercy Miller starting over Harwell, because I mean, you've seen guys in this program, especially young guards, like you saw Jamal Shed and Marcus Sasser in the not too distant past make big jumps from their freshman to sophomore seasons. In this program, Mercy came back, and I could see absolutely Mercy doing up their star over Harwell, because as we saw with Mercy's freshman season, as we saw with the freshman seasons of a lot of great Cougar guards in the recent past, like guys don't usually come in ready in year one for what Kelvin Sampson demands. And I think asking Mercy as a true freshman last year to have gotten on this court a lot for a team that was a hair's breadth away from winning the whole thing, I think very few freshmen would be able to do that to Kelvin Sampson's liking. There are also so many intriguing bench options. I think we're technically still waiting on finding out whether he has a waiver or not for the coming season, but in all likelihood, Ramon Walker Jr., I think if he stays healthy, can come in and be the tone setter in kind of the same way that Malik Wilson was. Mentioned Kingston Flemings. Really excited to see Sampson finally get to work with a blue chip freshman point guard right out of high school and seeing how Flemings develops. Do we, at one point in the season, see Uzan and Fleming on the court at the same time? I think that'd be a very interesting lineup. We've heard a lot about Chase McCarty, the top 100 recruit who redshirted this past season as well. He's getting a lot of early offseason buzz. There's just so many interesting players on this roster. And to what you said earlier, I just feel incredibly fortunate that this is the level of men's basketball program that we get to talk about in the show on a weekly basis. Fully agree with what you said earlier. This is a preseason number 1 type team. It's not the undisputed one, but one of the very small group of the best in the country coming into the season. And that is so cool.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how Sampson plays these lineups. I think you're right in saying that the freshmen, they don't usually play fairly early on for Kelvin Sampson. So you're going to definitely see Uzan leading the point. You're going to see the way this team is being built looks different than a lot of what Sampson has done in the past in terms of blue chip recruits, right? Like, he's never brought in recruits. He's never brought in a number one recruiting class. I'm not saying other recruiting classes.
No, like you got Jarris Walker, but that was like Jarris Walker was one guy on a veteran team.
Yeah, and even Jarris Walker, if I recall, I haven't looked this up, but he didn't start right away for you.
No, he did. He did. He started opening night.
I couldn't quite
remember. That was, I remember it because I was just like, oh, he's starting. It was UL Monroe, and we beat the pants off UL Monroe. I'm like, oh, I know it's UL Monroe, but he's starting opening night. Like, this could be special, and ended up,
It turns out you were right about that.
But also, Jarris Walker, very much the outlier of freshmen in this program.
Yeah, but a lot of the recruits we've brought in this year are outliers of what this program has brought in before. So it's going to be very interesting to kind of look at the lineups and see what's going to happen going forward with them. But it's not like you're going, oh man, it's going to be interesting to see because we don't have a center. Are we going to play small ball the whole year? Like, it's like, no, we can play any kind of ball we want to play this year because we have blue chip recruits and players who have performed in college basketball on the roster, ready to go. So it's going to be really exciting.
The one what if, it's such a stupid what if, but man, if Javier Francis's freshman season where he only came off the bench just like at the end of blowouts, which I think that was actually, I want to say, no, I mean, you're off. I was about to say, was that the same year Walker? No, I just remember that season. He played very little, but we got Tech late against Tulane because someone threw him an alley-oop because they wanted Javier Francis to get it. He's from New Orleans. They wanted to get a bucket there. I just think, like, man, I wish Javier would have redshirted that season. I don't think he starts over Senak, but oh man, if you had Chris Senak and Javier Francis at the 5, like, that'd buddy, I'm 5 minutes ago I would have been arguing that no, we need to be the preseason number 1, as opposed to like, I guess we're just one of several good candidates.
And then, like, you even think about a guy we haven't mentioned, JoJo Tugler.
I mentioned him a second ago in passing, but yeah.
Like, oh, we're just bringing back the best defensive player in NCAA basketball last year. Like, it's like that. Like, it's crazy.
What kind of jump does he make offensively? Because you see flashes, but it's mostly just been the defense and rebounding. Because why would you ask him to take the shots away from LJ Cryer and other guys? But like now, it's like, okay, like, give him a little bit more of that. There's just, you could do an entire like 60 more minutes of just like interesting stuff about the coming basketball season. Like, I know we're excited for football. We're excited for a number of different sports seasons in the year to come, but like men's basketball, that's not getting dethroned from the number 1 spot. Like, with all respect to a bunch of other very exciting sports, like
correct.
In part because our other big Cougar men's basketball news item was U of H making an extension of Kelvin Sampson's contract official last Wednesday. This means now that Sampson is signed to be the Houston Cougar men's basketball head coach through the 28-29 season, gets the pay bump and salary commensurate with Sampson's peers, is the best of the best in men's college basketball coaching. I think Duarte reported it as between $5.5 and $6 million in salary to start, kind of gradually increasing over the contract to just over $6 million by the end of the deal. Worth every penny, I'm comfortable saying. And when we talked about it last episode, it felt like it was imminent news. And in a week that hasn't been short of good Cougar men's basketball news, it doesn't get a whole lot better than the big man officially coming back long term, does it?
No. Classic example today is the exception to the rule of big news happening right after we record. Sampson's was brought to you last week on Wednesday morning after we recorded.
Not 12 hours after I posted the episode.
So, but no, in all seriousness, Kelvin Sampson deserves all the money he gets. I know you can make the argument, oh, it's so much money going to a college and they could use that for other stuff. I don't think you understand how much advertising Kelvin Sampson has done for this university by creating this basketball program. So, yeah, I'm for it. I think the other big news in it is that the assistants get a pay bump as well. Sampson. In fact, I think the AD was saying, Nunez was saying that that was kind of one of the things he really held out on was a pay bump for his assistants, which kind of funny. Get his son more money as well. Love that for him. Keep it in the family. So, but yeah, in all seriousness, you pay that man what he asked for because without this basketball program being a true front porch for this university, it's just those little things bring in more and more competitive students and help this university.
And the pay bump in his salary was from private money, which I believe I mentioned when we talked about it last week as kind of a soon-to-be official thing that's being signaled but not officially announced yet. So I would say to anyone that would be a naysayer to this kind of thing, what you all said, Bobby, it's been a good front porch investment for the university, and also it's not like Eddie Nunez is going to the sociology department like the Grim Reaper and being like,
right.
Sorry, 5-year grants are canceled. We need $500,000 more for Kelvin Sampson. This is coming from private donations. And to reiterate what I said last week, that's also, I think, a healthy indicator that the big money such as exists around U of H smartly realizes that Kelvin Sampson is the best possible investment they can make.
Yep.
I'll make this transition from a sport that we are 10 out of 10 excited about to one that we'll just say we're not 10 out of 10 excited on. A bit easier, because we're going to start the Cougar baseball talking tonight by giving something more time than we gave it last week. I think we mentioned it in passing, but didn't really dwell on it. I think we intended to dwell on it, but then got wrapped up in talking about the Big 12 tournament and how U of H could make a run through it. And that something was Cougar left-handed pitcher Antoine Jean last week winning the Big 12 Pitcher of the Year award. Jean was the first ever relief pitcher to get this honor, and even as a biased Houston Cougar fan, gotta say it, he really deserved it. Came out of the bullpen this year as a multi-inning, high-leverage guy. Finished the season, Jean did, with a 2.55 ERA. Struck out an astonishing 110 batters in 67 innings pitched. Just under 15 Ks per 9 innings. Had 5 saves as well. This is something that struck me this morning when I was putting together my thoughts for this section, Bobby. Pitcher wins have rightly become one of those stats that kind of laugh at now. It's not a real stat. It's not a useful way of telling you how a baseball pitcher has done. Jean having that 5-1 record this year tells you part of the story. Tells you about a guy who wasn't just a great pitcher, but was a great pitcher who carried you to some big wins this year. Bobby, you were physically present in Arlington for Jean's final Cougar appearance. First off, a big picture, where does Jean's season rank up there for Cougar athletes that we've seen this season, that you've seen over your many years as a Cougar fan? And what was watching his last start like in person?
Man, I've been, for probably the last month or so, I've been on this. Jean may be the best pitcher that we've seen at U of H since you and I have become fans. I could make the argument for, I could hear the argument for a couple, but he's definitely on that Mount Rushmore of pitchers that I've seen come through U of H since I started with that 2008 baseball season. I struggle to even think of any that I'd take over him. It is, when you look at his numbers, you went through them, but all those strikeouts in that few innings pitched, what is that, like a 1.75 K per inning? That's
I think it ended up being about 1.6.
Yeah, it's something along those lines, but it's an absolutely insane number when you really think about it. So yeah, I think it was really, it's been really, really good to watch him this season. And I think everything he's done this year has just been really, really, really impressive, and something that Cougar fans should celebrate.
John's story is a cool one for me because it's a story of perseverance. He comes to the U of H program before the 2024 season, missed all of 2023 injured while he was playing at Bama, missed a good chunk of 2021 hurt as well. Had a really strong start as a true freshman in 2020. Then that season gets canceled due to the onset of COVID-19. There are a lot of points in there where Jean had to feel unlucky. And if anyone out there has rehabbed a serious injury, like Jean had to do multiple times, it could be a lonely experience. And even people with the best mental makeup have bad days where you question whether you can get through it and be 100% the same athlete you were physically before the injury. to see Jean finally have that breakthrough season this year and have, I would say, one of the better college baseball pitcher seasons out there in Division I, it's really cool. And now Jean gets to go into the MLB draft process with 2 healthy seasons in a row in a career where, you have some injury baggage, have the swing and miss stuff, and no longer have as many questions about durability. I don't think he'll have to wait too many rounds before getting picked this summer in the MLB draft. And we have plenty to talk about that's Houston Cougar baseball related that isn't as enjoyable, but I wanted to separate those things. Give Antoine Jean his due for an incredible 2025 season, as what I would fully agree with you is one of the best pitchers, and you can make a case for the best that we've watched in the last 20-ish years of Cougar baseball. One of the best seasons any U of H student athletes had in their sport this season as well.
Yeah, not trying to influence the Poskers, but I definitely think there's somebody who, off the top of my head, might be my favorite for male athlete of the year here.
Yeah, well, 100%. Have not done anything Poskers related, but you can write it in pen here. Like he is going to be on the list for male athlete of the year. Like you can't have the season he did, not at least. And I think he'll get my consideration for the pick too. I have to
me too.
Look at the full list, really think about it.
That we decide about an hour or two before we send it out to the masses.
Hey man, don't question the scientific process. We got to get to the less enjoyable stuff though. Cougar baseball completed their 2025 season this past week, beat it for the first time in program history at the Big 12 Baseball Championship this year held in Arlington at Globe Life Field. And it wasn't all bad times in the past week, to be fair. The 11 seed Cougs opened the tournament with a emphatic 9-2 win over the 6 seed K-State. Connor McGinnis and Xavier Perez were really dangerous in that one at 3-4 in the lineup. Those guys combined for 5 hits. Trey Broussard also did a good job setting the table at the top of the lineup, got on base 3 times with a pair of walks. Andres Perez really clutched in that one through 4 innings of scoreless relief after a shaky first inning from your starter, Paul Schmitz. Brady Fuller got his first college save with 3 scoreless, as well as put U of H in a quarterfinals rematch with 3 seed TCU, and you had Antoine Jean rested and available. We were pretty excited about that, but Cougs got jumped on early by TCU with an assist from some truly terrible fielding. Never really looked in that one, which TCU won 7-1, ended the season, and frankly, the 7-1 looks closer on paper than it felt watching it in real time. I alluded to it a bit ago, Bobby. You were there at Globe Life Field. How was it watching the Cougs from seats that I would assume you normally wouldn't spring for if it was a Rangers game? And of course, any thoughts you have about the Cougs at the Big 12 tournament?
Yeah, of course. So, first of all, I was at the TCU game, wasn't able to make the Kansas State game, had some previous stuff. DFW Coug fans, just going real quick here. We got to be better. I admit I wasn't at the first game. I made it to the second game. I don't know if there was a fan there besides me and maybe 1 or 2 other people that weren't parents or friends of players. There's a lot of us up here. This is just me kind of crying out here. We got to be better at showing up to these things even at the last moment. I texted you this, Sam, that, and your response to me was, we have to understand that we can't show up when we win. What helps with winning is putting butts in seats. Come out, win the team's the 11 seed in the Big 12 tournament. I'm not saying you have to go to everything like a sicko like me who hosts a podcast. If they play in Dallas, if a Cougar team plays in Dallas, I'm probably there. So if you're worried you won't know anybody, come say hey to me. But also, like, we got to support. I know Sampson and others were in Dallas last year for a meet and greet, the Cougars on the road. And my understanding is Coach Sampson wasn't very happy with the attendance. So DFW Cougs, we got to be better. That's just my little rant there, Sam. Thanks for allowing me to do that real quick.
Yeah, of course, man.
And then finally, I think going to the game was an awesome experience. To your point, Sam, I was 4 rows from the nets, from behind the dugout. It's a really cool experience. I got to see where the rich people go, not the upper level where I usually go. But no, it was really cool being there. It's always fun being at a Cougar sporting event. I can't think of many times where I've left a Cougar sporting event like, oh man, that sure was a waste of time. Even a 7-1 blowout like the Cougs got hit there. Just to the Kansas State game, super exciting. You jumped out on them early, got up 5-2, and then you kind of just held on. That's what you needed to do. So yeah, great performance there. And to what you said, you were able to keep Jean available for game 2, and I think that gave us a lot of hope. And hey, most games he pitches, he wins. He's 5-1. He most games he pitches in, he takes the W. And so we got pretty excited for that. But then come to find out, TCU is a really good baseball team, Sam. I don't know if you know this. And actually no-hit the Cougs. Actually perfect game. The Cougs threw 4, I want to say it was. Yeah, I think it was 4.
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5. I'm looking at it now. First hit came in top of 5th. So held you through 4. It never felt like the Cougs were going to catch up on that, even that 5, the 5-run inning that TCU had, or the 4-run inning, I'm sorry, when they got to their 5. Never felt like the Cougs were ever going to come back from that, even as they started gathering a couple of hits later on in the game. Just never felt like a game the Cougs were going to win. Really cool being there for John's final college appearance. It was a little emotional for everybody. You could see that everyone went out, was giving him big hugs. He knew, everyone else knew. Even if the Cougs were to make a run in this tournament, he probably wasn't pitching again. So, like I said, really emotional moment, you could tell. But, I was a little disappointed leaving because it felt like I was there for a bloodbath of a game. But you were like, hey man, it's pretty cool you got to see his final game. And I was like, you know what, Sam, you're exactly right. That is really cool. So, yeah, it was good to be in the building. Enjoyed being in the building. But yeah, that's what it was kind of like as a Cougar fan out there.
I would just also add to what you said at the start about supporting the teams when they're nearby. Like if you live in the DFW Metroplex, like chances are you're not never down to Houston for a game on campus, but like I would just say you probably do it a whole lot less often because you live 4 hours north. So it's kind of just like, what's keeping you from doing this more often? Like, I'm not saying, again, like I get it. Like not every single game is possible to schedule. You were able to make both of them. Like, just tell it, like, I don't know, like support these guys like that. So showing up is how we get better and stuff. And that's a relationship U of H fans need to more broadly understand, though. Chances are, if you're listening, I'm probably preaching to something like
the choir
here. Yeah. So I won't belabor the point. I will just add that the first 2 or 3 innings of the TCU game, I don't think I'm exaggerating in saying this, some of the worst played baseball I've ever seen.
Worst,
like the hitters were swinging at bad stuff. Not that TCU's pitcher wasn't excellent. Tommy Lepore, like excellent, so good. But like also you weren't making his job any harder than it needed to be.
Yeah, I think I texted you and I was like, college pitching is wild. He just threw a 93, or he started with an 83 mile an hour slider and he goes 93 mile an hour fastball. It's like, that's so hard to hit. But yeah, he was really good. 3
errors, I think, in the first 2 innings, and it could have been 4. Like TCU is making some good contact, but you were 3 free passes from your starter, Chris Cinta.
It was
like
bad.
you couldn't have played much worse baseball than you did through the first 2-3 innings of this game. And with the way Tommy Lepore was pitching, with the way your hitter, like as poor as the pitching was, though, Jean did a good job kind of settling things down. It didn't get to the double-digit deficit territory, but the way you were hitting, it almost felt like it was. It never felt like. And I think the dagger to the heart, like Bobby was there until, and Bobby was there until what, about midnight Central Time.
Yeah.
My co-host left in the middle of the 8th inning because it was midnight. We were down 7-0, and of course they scored the 1 run.
I was walking out as U of H was hitting in the top half. I didn't see the run, but I could hear quite a bit as I was walking out.
I had it on my master bedroom projector, and I admit I had left the room for an extended period of time, walked back in and saw it was 7-1 and immediately texted Bobby like, dang, bud, all you need to do is leave for them to get on the board. But, and I'm glad you were also able to see that even in a game where not a lot went right for the Cougars, there's still things to enjoy from going in person to watch sports. And that's one of those things that I think I've gotten to appreciate as U of H's fortunes have, waxed and waned. Just like, I don't get to watch U of H sports in person anymore, and it's really fun to do it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me and you, and why we do it so much is like, we don't get to just say on a Tuesday night, like, hey man, we're kind of bored. Let's go to, let's buy. I have one set of season tickets, and like, I would love to be able to buy volleyball, football, basketball, even the small sports that don't take the headlines. I would love to go to a swimming and diving meet just to appreciate the athletes and what they're doing out there. Same with track, those kind of things. And so I think you're right. We don't live there anymore, so going to the events is really enjoyable now.
And so this all takes us to the same place that we've been for the previous 5 college baseball seasons that ended normally, though if we're being honest, the 2020 team probably would have ended that season in the same place that all the teams around it did. We're here, and U of H is not in the NCAA tournament. And what's certainly been true every season since 2021, U of H isn't in the tournament and wasn't close to having a resume worth consideration of being an at-large. I went season by season since 2018 when U of H last made the tournament, looked at the RPI, if you'll allow me. 2019, you finished 45th in the country. The last season, U of H had a legit case to be in as an at-large, but were left out. 2021, you were 233rd. 2022, you were 77th. And I think that was the season where you were in the championship game as ECU. So your best team during this stretch. 2023 dropped 102. 2024, 112. And as of tonight, you're 93rd in the country. And RPI is an outdated metric, but I still think it tells the story accurately of what U of H baseball has been these past 5 years.
Yeah, and it definitely plays a role in the selection committee and things like that. Like, it usually when you look at the RPI on things like this, it's usually like, oh, the top 64 teams made it. Like, it's not like basketball.
And I think RPI describes in the most general sense what this program's been. A team that's been barely top 100 in the sport, nowhere near the postseason championship on merit. Since this last U of H baseball NCAA tournament appearance, Bobby, this program has gone 7-21 in conference play 2 different times, the 2021 season and then 2024, the first season in Big 12 play. Even at schools where there isn't a lot of baseball history, I would say most athletic departments would look at this situation and the fact that the head coach is going into his final season under contract and conclude a change would be best for all parties. But Bobby, for better or for worse, we do not do a podcast about most athletic departments. We do one about the University of Houston, don't we? And I think we're both in agreement about what U of H is going to do here, even if this isn't us saying we think U of H is going to do this and our sources tell us X. This is just Bobby and Sam's opinion.
Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have very, very, very few sources, and none of them are in baseball. But we're not privy to a bunch of information.
We're privy to more than we expected we'd be 10 years ago when we did this show, but I can't just ping someone in 10 minutes, have my burning U of H question answered. I have like maybe 10% of a better chance than the median U of H.
We might hear
20%
before
maybe.
You guys. Hear an hour before you guys. Anyways, I think he's staying for the year. I think you're going to have one more year. I think with an athletic program that is strapped for cash, even though hires that we've seen recently show us otherwise, what we haven't seen is U of H firing a coach and not just paying a buyout for somebody. When was the last time we had to pay a buyout besides Holgerson? I mean, like, it's been a while,
Ooh, I'd have to think about that because I think the last volleyball coach, Caddy Platt, there was NCAA that might have been an expiring deal, but there was also NCAA stuff.
Yeah,
there
it was
too. man.
Right? It's tough.
I mean, I was going to say, are we counting Applewhite? I mean, for a non-football coach, man, I would have to think a good long. Give me some time. I'm going to think about this as we record about other stuff.
The only one I can think of that was like, you got to go major like coach. You have Rainer Noble. He might have been an expiring deal, but
no, I think he was a dismiss, or they reassigned, but it was dismissal.
Right. You might be Penders. Dickey? Yeah,
Pender. I think the answer to this question is actually Dickey. I don't think Dickey was on an expiring deal going into the end of the 2013-14 season. I think.
Sorry, how's that for a little fun segment there?
It's been a while. It's been a while since we fired a coach.
Right. So it's like
that wasn't a football coach.
Yeah, that wasn't a football. Yeah. So I think he's staying. We don't really fire anybody. We don't want to afford paying him, even though I think his buyout dropped pretty significantly going into the last year. Every dollar and cent counts. I think maybe he shouldn't be our coach next year just on pure performance. But money talks, and he raises a lot of it as well. So we'll, even though I wouldn't imagine a ton are going to come in next year because he's still here, they're not going to invest long-term possibly. But overall, I don't think he should be here as our head coach if we want to see this program change at all.
And I think I'm not as annoyed at U of H about this because I get they're in full money saving mode, but there are apparently deep pocketed people, you just alluded to it, who Whitting has done a great job getting to donate not small sums of money on various program improvements, the various stadium projects, the super nice team specific facility they have. If you're one of those deep pocketed people, I get that you like Todd Whitting. I like Todd Whitting. He's a good dude. He's a U of H alum and someone who has spent most of his life coaching or playing at this university. If you're a U of H fan, you should be biased towards wanting an alum who clearly loves the school to succeed. It's just the results aren't happening. I would assume most of U of H baseball's biggest donors are some kind of business owner or have been or currently are some kind of senior executive for a company. Those people need to look at U of H baseball right now as something they've invested large sums of money in as, say, a part of a business of theirs that's underperforming and has a manager that's been underperforming for a while. And then that's not subjective. U of H is about to be in its longest NCAA tournament drought since the first term of Ronald Reagan's presidency. And the biggest problem, I think, here is that the longer it's been since U of H baseball is relevant, the more the program falls off the radar of the fan base at large. Apathy can be really hard to overcome, and I think no one word describes the situation around U of H baseball better right now than apathy. And we don't want it to be the case, but I don't think how you can look at the situation and not say that's the case here.
Yeah, I think apathy is a great way to describe it. I think it's also telling that I think I said this last week that when your softball coaches let go, all the responses underneath that Facebook post and tweet are do baseball next.
Yeah, there's not many people paying attention, and the ones that are happy about. Like, how do you fix that with a coach that's on an expiring deal? Because we're now reiterating, I agree with you. I don't think they're getting rid of him. That's not me saying they for sure won't, but I don't believe that we will have a different baseball coach. I think we're both consistent on that. We're 3 for 3 in seeing how that goes. Like, I know Kristen Vesely, also lots to unpack there. I know Kristen Vesely hadn't been doing great immediately prior to this most recent season, but dead last in the Big 12 again. Women's basketball had, I would say, its worst season since Huey's first couple here. And he's like, tennis goes 0 for Big 12 in 2024 and isn't very competitive in any of the Big 12 matches. Also a coach on an expiring deal. Like, we see how this is going.
Right.
Like, we have 3, even though every sport's its own animal, we have 3 pretty good examples of a coach that wasn't doing great before on an expiring deal and how this is going to go. And I mean, if you're an assistant of Todd Whitting right now and you get offered a job that you probably wouldn't normally leave U of H for, but let's say like that head coach is in the first or second year of a long-term rebuild. Yep. Why don't you might like this program? Probably like working for Todd Whitting. People that work for him seem to like him. why are you not like looking over at that other program and say, I mean, that's what happened with a soccer coach, Jaime Frias. Like his top assistant left because there was a job at Baylor with a coach that wasn't going into a season on an expiring contract.
That's why you don't let coaches go to expiring contracts.
Yeah.
What's Whitting going to show next year that's going to be like, oh yeah, this guy should absolutely still be the head coach here?
It just underscores it's not Chris Pesman's most unethical extension. Because shout out Kristen Vesely on that one. And the secret 1-year deal that wasn't open records requestable until a week before it was signed.
Yeah, it's not his most unethical one, nor is it his worst financial one. So,
but boy howdy, extending Todd Whitting in the summer of 2023 was a comically bad. It could not have been a better decision for both parties at the time. Like, he could be an associate head coach somewhere right now, possibly on the short list for openings. U of H could have hired someone like Nolan Kane, longtime SEC assistant, who's now Schlossnagel's top assistant at UT. Who I guess theoretically, I mean, still out there, but like
you could,
but also another program that wasn't handicapped by fucking stupid decision making from people above its head. Like, could hire him before you, and you could. That's the opportunity cost of this incredibly poor extension by your previous athletic director, and we don't want it to be the case. I want to end my baseball thoughts by saying, I wish it was working for Todd Whitting here because he's a good dude and he's a Coug.
Yep.
Like I just love college baseball, and I love it when U of H is good at college baseball, but it hasn't happened here for a while. It's been a long time since we talked. I might not have had gray in my beard the last time there was a season that U of H was a serious threat to make the baseball postseason.
Yeah, sure would be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But we're going to end the podcast on a much happier note. As Cougar track and field program this week will be going to NCAA West Prelims in College Station, Texas. This will be happening Wednesday through Saturday, the 28th through the 31st of this week. The men's rounds will be happening on Wednesday and Friday, and the women's rounds will be happening on Thursday and Saturday. Most simply, this event is the only path to competing in the NCAA Outdoor Championships for nearly all of the athletes in a couple weeks in Eugene, Oregon. Obviously, these athletes have gotten to prelims via some level of very good performance during this current outdoor season, but you can be the athlete with the fastest time in just, for example, the 100-meter dash. And if you have a bad race at prelims, that's your season. You are not going to outdoors in that event. I mean, not to bring up a painful memory, but I think there's a very good U of H example of this in the 2019 season where U of H ended up actually finishing third as a team at NCAA Outdoors. The Cougs had the second fastest 4x100 relay in the country. They were 400s behind LSU from when the two programs squared off at the Texas Relays. I remember this moment. Today I had like an itch in the back of my head. I was like, I remember the 2019 season, us and LSU had some kind of 4x1 specific beef. And it was at Texas Relays. It was a viral moment, if you'll remember, Bobby. The LSU guy was pounding his chest and talking smack, and Travis Collins, the guy who ran the anchor for U of H's face. To Travis Collins' credit, he very much like doesn't react, maybe kind of gives an amused smirk to the guy as he's woofing. I think neither us or LSU, I think, ended up winning it that season. But anyway, U of H had an elite 4x1 that season, and just someone dropped the baton at prelims, and that was all she wrote. And probably our best team performance in our lifetimes, you didn't have the 4x1 there, which is, it's one of those things that's agonizing at the same time, but I think it makes for incredibly compelling sports. And I think, Bobby, no shortage of Cougar athletes that'll be competing for a spot in College Station.
Yeah, just a couple to watch just as I was going through results and stuff. Smith Mata, the reason why I think he'll be interesting to watch is he's run 22nd best time in the country. Kind of puts him on the border of will he make it to Eugene or not. These kind of athletes who run multiple events and can sneak in give you a chance to build up points in the track championship, national championship. Every point counts in that. I think it was last year the NCAA championships ended because of the 4x1, but Smith Mata, really like to see him make that trip to Eugene with the 22nd best time in the country on the year. If he can just improve that a little bit, he can get up there. Do I think he's necessarily going to win? Probably not. But that 2022 kind of border where he is in the country is a place to really look at athletes who can still make it to Eugene. Obviously, you have Bryce Chabot as well, same kind of deal. Some of his times in the country have him on that national championship border. Again, you make it to Eugene, you can grab a couple of points. Not that you'll win a national title or anything like that, but every point counts. So yeah, those are just some of my male athletes to kind of watch heading into College Station.
Yeah, I kind of looked at by events too. You have the 110 hurdles where there's 4 Cougars competing. Jamar Marshall Jr. for me, I think it's definitely a guy to watch. Has the second fastest time in the country in the 110 hurdles right now. Won it at Big 12 Outdoors a couple weeks ago. Has the fastest time that anyone has run since the calendar turned to April this season. John Adesola, one of that quartet as well. He's currently tied for the 10th fastest time in the country. We'll also mention for the women's short hurdles, you have Casey McCoy and Allie Mack representing the Cougars in the 100 hurdles as well. If I had to pick an individual athlete that I think has the best chance of standing on the podium in a couple weeks in Eugene at NCAA Outdoors, I think I'd pick Kiela Dove in the women's shot put, where she'll, of course, be representing the Cougars here at prelims, won the Big 12 women's outdoor shot put as well. Also representing U of H in the throws are Zeta Huff. She'll be in the hammer throw. And on the men's side, you have Cordell Wokeji in the shot put and Kevin Grubbs in the discus. Bobby, we're just missing a javelin athlete for representation at all the various field events where somebody throws some kind of object.
Heavy or sharp. It's either a heavy or sharp object.
Heavy or sharp object, as the Greeks insisted. Men's high jump, another big field event to watch. You have Andrea Mita as one of the top athletes in the country. He currently has tied for the 11th best performance this season. He's coming off finishing in second at Big 12 Outdoors. He'll get a bit of a rematch with the guy who won it at Big 12 Outdoors, a fellow sophomore, Tex BJ Jennings. You also have Mikkel Beck and Therese Stoudemire representing the Cougs in the high jump as well. I think definitely possible that it's not just Mita. I could see Beck or Stoudemire putting in a performance to move on to Eugene as well. Smith Mata, glad you mentioned him. Also part of your 4x1 relay. The Cougar men's 4x1 and 4x4 relays will be competing in College Station. The women's 4x1 will be represented as well. You got a couple middle distance guys there. Trey East III will be representing the Cougars in the men's 400 and Adam Mason in the 800. For me, I think the last thing I'll be keeping an interested eye on are some of the jumps. U of H didn't have a lot of really big standout performances this season necessarily there. U of H is going to have Kevin Snyder and Caleb Marlborough representing them in both the men's long jump and triple jump. But the reason I'm keeping an eye on this one, because one of the formative memories I have since we really started covering Cougar track and field in this podcast was from that 2019 season, I believe it was. Benjamin Okafor was an athlete in that team, kind of out of nowhere at prelims, qualified for NCAA Outdoors, had a performance at prelims that was by far his season's best. And those are the kind of cool stories you get from prelims. And I think we'll definitely be excited here to follow along later this week and then come back here next time and talk about who will be officially going to Eugene from the Cougars. I'm double checking my notes, going to see if I missed anything important. But no, I think you and I collectively have hit on all the athletes that you should be keeping an eye on.
All right, Sam. Well, it's been a longer episode than I think either one of us maybe thought it was going to be, but we started talking Cougar baseball, and that will always get us talking longer than normal. But that is it for this week's episode. So if you have any feedback for us, you can find us on social media at SH Podcast on Twitter. You can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. And if you don't want to use social media anymore, you've sworn it off and you're still going almost 5 months in.
Good on you.
Good on you. Good on you. You can email us kind of the old fashioned way. It's always fun to call email old fashioned. Makes me feel young and living. So, but no, if you want to just do email, you can find us shpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Patreon. If you really want our attention, you can find us there. And that is patreon.com/shpodcast. I think that's it. I think that's everything. I think I touched on everything, Sam. And what do we say every single time?
Go Cougs.
All right. Go Cougs. Let's go.